In this video, we're going to have a look at the reasons to buy Oxygen to either design your own website or to design websites for your clients. First of all, you'll never buy another theme again. Oxygen allows you to design the theme you want the way that you want, so you'll never buy another theme. And the website that you make will also not be bloated with unnecessary classes or scripts that will slow your site down. Oxygen is a very clean and neat templating system that outputs very clean and neat websites. So what can you do with Oxygen? Well, when you load up Oxygen, you'll be asked to either install an Oxygen design library or to design a website from scratch. If you select to choose something from the design library, here are some of the sample websites that you can import into your site, and all the styles, the colors, the layouts are then imported into the website for you. So for example, if I wanted to look at this flight school, I could first view the demo. And if this is the website that I would like, I would be able to then import these elements into my website, update, and be able to go live. So what we would simply then need to do is just click on install. And we've used the standard atomic theme for this demonstration. So the first reason is I can install a completely made up website, go in, edit, and my website is complete, or I can create a website from scratch. When we have a look at the templating layout, we head along to Oxygen, we go to the templates, and these are all the templates that are created for my theme. I can look at the main, which is the header and the footer. I have page layouts, blog posts, archives, other singular, and even inner content. So how does Oxygen actually work? What does it look like? Let's head over to the interface. And what you'll notice in the interface is a very nice user-friendly layout. We'll activate the panels, and you'll see that on the right-hand side, I have a tree structure, which indicates the elements on the website. And on the left-hand side, if I select an element, I would have all the formatting options available for that particular item. And you'll see that it has a standard primary panel, which looks at some of the main formatting options. However, if I head over into the advanced section, I have complete access to backgrounds, which may be images, maybe gradients. I have different size and padding options. I can even change the width, perhaps from a page width to a full width, or even my own custom width, maximum widths, maximum heights. If we look at layout, this is where we can look at flex options, block. I can even choose to display none, floating, overflow, clear, visibility, set the Z index, and also things like absolute, relative, fixed, or static. And you'll see that here I can set the different settings for, say, absolute, relative, or fixed items. We'll quickly then head on back to typography, and here you'll see that if I have an element that has various typography features, anything from the font family, which allows me to select any Google font, font sizes, the font weight, where the alignment is, the line height, the letter spacing, underscore, overscore, normal, italic, capitalized, uppercase, whatever you need for your fonts. If we have a look at borders, you can set individual borders, you can set the color, you can set the width, the style, you can set the border radius globally for all four corners, or you can set the radius for individual corners. So borders are well taken care of. Then we have effects. Effects then add a lot of specialized animations, transitions, filters, shadows, opacity to your content elements. And it would be as simple as clicking on the element, enabling the animation, for example, in this case, animate on scroll, and then completing all the settings available. You don't have to know what they are. You can simply click on one of these items and see what's available and what for styling, or what's available to make that particular effect work. Under transformation, if you add transform, you'll see you have a number of transform options available, and You also then have a transition option, which will then set the transition. So if you wanted to create an effect that was only available on hover, you could simply select that item, head over to the state, select hover, apply the effect to hover, and then even set the transition. So that could be, for example, hovering over an item and it enlarges, and there you could create that smooth transition as your mouse hovers over a particular item. So you don't have to know everything, but you can certainly see what's available when you're having a look at individual items. So a lot of effects. Then you can also add your custom CSS. So here I can add custom CSS just applicable to that element. In another section of the website, I can actually add my own style sheets and my own classes. In this case, we're just looking at these menu items. Then we also have the JavaScript area. I can here add my own JavaScript to that particular content item. And here we can even set our own custom attributes. So here I would set the name, which can either be my own name or it might be a field in the data, which in the data may be a custom field. It could be a title. It could be a category. So it could come from the featured image, author, current user, blog info, archive, or an advanced PHP function. So that all integrates and then allows me to assign a value to that attribute. A lot that you can do there then, which can allow you to format content in different ways based on certain values, or maybe you want to integrate with JavaScript and you need to have a specific attribute, you can do that. And even if you're looking at some JSON values or structured data for Google to pick up on. So you then have complete freedom to create whatever attribute you want. On the right-hand side, we have this structure panel here, which is open by default. And here, if I wanted to move something around, I could simply select, drag, and now that element is moved, in this case, to the bottom of the page. If I want to move it back up, simply drag to the top, and it's back at the top of the page. And similarly, I can go into each of these items, and I can even move some of the sub-items around in those areas. I can also rename any one of these items. So there's a little menu here. I can quite easily then rename, as this one has been renamed to footer. And if I wanted to rename that, simply click on rename and type in the new name for that item. If I want to wrap an item with a div, I can simply select and then wrap with div. And that item is now wrapped with a div. And if I'm not happy with that change, I can move up to the top here under history and simply select undo, and that will then undo whatever I've just done. So that's a very quick overview of the left and the right hand panel. So the right hand panel looks at the hierarchy of your page, while the left hand panel looks at all the formatting options available to the panel that you've selected. So there, for example, we have an item selected, and you can immediately see on the left hand side how the panel changes as I select different items. Right, so that's just a brief overview of the left and the right hand panels. And then at the top here, we have the save button in the top right hand corner. So there are revisions that are saved as per normal WordPress post. So it does allow you to go and look at the history of an entire template that you've created or page that you've created. But then this is where I save. This is the structure panel that you saw, and then the history, which is the undo and redo. And then under manage, I have a couple of options available to me here. So if we have a look at settings, you'll see that I can manage my entire website look and feel from a central point. So all colors, all fonts, headings, body text, links are all set from within a central place. So when it comes to colors, I can have global colors and atomic colors. So we preloaded the atomic theme. So if I go into atomic, you'll see that I have all the colors that are used in that theme that I imported here. So if I wanted to change the look and feel of this theme, I can simply click on any one of the colors, change the color, and that color change would then be applied to my theme. So that's the one way of managing the colors of my website. And if I want to add another color, I can simply say add color. I might want to create a yellow, and then I can look up that color. Maybe I'll scroll down to the yellow, add color, and now yellow is saved. And if I head over here to my text color, you'll see that the yellow has been added. So that's how quickly it is to create a new color and then to have it appear in the colors available for your content. So that ensures that you don't ever use colors that are not specified or spec'd for your theme. And very easy to then select any color, and you'll see that the change is applied immediately. So that's just a quick look at how you can set up your colors. So let's go back to the settings and scroll back to the top, and let's go out of colors. I can even add a new color set. So we have the global colors. I can add a color. I have my theme colors, and I can add another color set if I want to. I can have as many as I like. When it comes to fonts, we look at a display font and we look at the text font. So if I was to change the font, you'll see that the font then changes all in all the spots on the website where the font is used. So very quick. And if I want to add another font, I can simply click on add font and add that font to the website. If we head over to headings, here you can see the standard H1 to all the way down to H6, and I can set the font size, I can set the font weight, and I can set the line height. And the font, of course, is taken from the menu we just had a look at now, which gave you the fonts. But if I want to add a different font, I still have the option on a text element to change the font individually if it's just going to be different for a specific item. So, for example, I can just make that item with that font, but these are the fonts, standard fonts available throughout the theme. So when I insert one of these menus, it will automatically take on that formatting. So very nice and easy. Then on the body text, standard size for body text, the font weight, the line height, and the color. So that will be the standard body text. Once again, if I change that, it changes on the website. Then we have different kinds of links. So generally you'd have a default color for a link. So whatever item was made into a link, it would then automatically assign this color. But once again, you can go to the individual item and overwrite that value if you so desire. And then we have what we call the text link. So I can now even create a separate color for the text links. So this is the default, and then I can create something special for text links. Then we have link wrappers. So if I took a div and assigned a link to it, it would then become a link wrapper. And here, once again, I can set the styling for whatever would appear in that link wrapper. And then we have our button. So here I can set the font weight for the button, and I can also set the border radius. And if you were just wondering about buttons, if I click here on the button, you'll see that I have a text color, a hover color, a font size, a font weight. I have a rel tag that I can set as well, the target, the link, font family, colors. So once again here I can manipulate my button. So I have the basic layout here, and then I can still go in and update each element individually. So that was links up until button. And then we have widths and breakpoints. So for your mobile settings, you can set your widths and breakpoints. Then we have sections. So the section is generally the container that contains content. And when I add a new section, I can set the container padding for that particular item. Just save some time in having to set it every time if it's going to be the same. Then we have animate on scroll. So if I wanted to set an animate on scroll, I can come in here and set the default animate on scroll settings. I don't have to do it for every item every time. And then under scripts, we have the option to smooth scroll to hash links. I can select that, set the scroll time, and then any hash link in my content will then inherit that scroll. So if we have a look at the interface, I can also eliminate it completely so that I can have a look and see what my website will look like on the front end, and of course very easy then to get it all back when I'm ready to move on. The next thing that we're going to have a look at then is style sheets. So if I wanted to create my own style sheet, I'm able to come in here. I have two here that I've created, but very easy to create a custom style sheet. Simply say add style sheet, and I can add a style sheet. I can add a folder to put my style sheets in, and simply by clicking on that pencil, I can then edit that particular style sheet. Just select it, and there we have the different style sheets, and I can edit those styles. And here, for example, we have the atomic style, which we can enable or disable. And here we have one of the disabled. Anything that you don't want to use, you can simply disable. You don't have to necessarily delete. So if I wanted to move these into the disabled, I could simply click on that and then disable those styles. Right, so that's style sheets, but over and above style sheets, we also have selectors. And inside the selectors, you will see that these are the individual selectors that you can create for your website, and these are those that are supplied. When I've imported this theme, these are all the selectors associated with that theme. But to give an idea, if I came to home here, I could add another class, for example. So I might call that a test class. So let's call that a-test class. And to show you how easy that is to add, simply add class, and then you'll notice that a test class has been added here. So I can now go in and make whatever styling I want here. I can also select, head over to advanced, and do some settings that way. It's just often much easier to do it with the object that you're styling selected. So that then allows you to just to have a look and see how you can centrally manage the style, the colors, the fonts, all those elements from a central point. And then, of course, you saw how easy it is then to override those elements on an individual level at times when you need to do that. And this link over here then, well, let's close that. So we've looked at setting style sheets and selectors. And if we have a look here, I have an option here to head back to the admin or the front end, or I can right click and open in a new tab. And sometimes that's a nice option when you're working on a website. So that just gives you a brief overview into the menu structure that you're seeing as the person designing a website. The next thing that we're going to have a look at is adding the different content elements to your theme. So while we're looking at this, you'll see that if we go and have a look at our structure on the right hand side, we have a header, we have inner content, and we have a footer, and we've also added some other special content. So the way that this works is typically on a website I have a header. Inside my header I have different items like navigation. This one has a button that says contact details. If I have a look at my header in the top row, there I can see I have my header row 1, and then I have a second header row here which contains the second elements. And if I wanted to move my contact details to the top, I would simply drag and drop. I know those elements are in the top. So that's how you would work with the elements within the header. And this would then be stored in a template that we call main. And when we then create a template, for example, if we look at page, you'll see that we say here inherit design from other templates, and we're saying inherit the main design. And the main design here has been set up in such a way so it contains the header, footer. Inner content doesn't contain anything, but the footer is also contains a lot of content. So that tells me that when it inherits the element, the header and footer will be as per this header and footer, and the inner content then will be as per the content on the website. If I want to create different headers, say one for Christmas, one for Easter, one for a summer sale, a winter sale. I can create several different headers and footers, and these can be stored either as different templates, which then can be inherited with different pages, or I can create several headers and footers within this template and assign a condition, and then display that content based on the condition. So this header, for example, I could set the condition and very easily say that if the date is equal to, is before or after this particular date, then display this header. And I could add another header and say if the header is between different dates, then display a different header. So I can manage all the headers and all the footers that I want for my website for different promotions from a central place. Another good reason why Oxygen makes so much sense, because you can manage your theme centrally. Right, so that's had a look at some of the headers and the footers and how to customize some of the styles. Let's just have a look at what we can do when we look at the actual content of a page. So when it comes to the actual content of a page, and let's have a look at something that's very standard in WordPress, and that would be your post. So normally you would need to create your post, and generally you'd want to create your post in a specific style. So here we head over to the structure of our website, and you'll see that we have an element here called Easy Post. Now, Easy Post is exactly what it says. It's an easy way to create and style posts on your website. So you don't even have to worry about any of the programming or the formatting or the styling if you don't want to bring in content elements. And you don't only have one option, you have several options. And to show you how that would work is in the styling side, if we look under templates, here is the template. So I can now edit this standard template. Or if I wanted to add a new element, simply go to my helpers on the left-hand side here, head over to Easy Posts, and here in Easy Posts, I have an option to bring in different styles. So I could go the same content, but now styled completely different. So that's as a list. I could do something like that. I could quite easily select a timeline. I could quite easily select something like that. And you'll see it even has the built-in animation, and the stripes just mean that there's no image for this particular post. So you can see how easy it is to bring in different elements. And then once those are imported, you'll see that this is like a default layout. So grid image standard. But I can now even here come in and under my templates, if I want to remove something, for example, I don't want the number of comments to show, I can simply remove that item, or I could simply remove all the post meta. And you'll see that the post meta, after applying that code, has now been removed. So very easy for me to here come in, and if I like to style my own templates, come in and create my own style that I would like. What's also nice is I can also then look at the style sheet for this particular template that was pre-made. So straight away I can come in here and start messing with the colors, the alignment, whatever I want that pertains just to that particular layout. Another nice benefit is I also have control over the query. So I can either use the default WordPress query, I can come in and create my own custom query. So if I had custom post types, I could then select that custom post type and create my own loop the way that I would like it. So we have the post type, then we have filtering, so by taxonomies and by authors. So these are standard post options available, and we can set the order to ascending, descending, and then of course select what to sort by, and we can also set the count. So how many posts would we like to be pulled into this particular loop? And then we also have the manual option, and you'll see this is a very standard way to set up your own post within WordPress. And you'll see, for example, author name equals admin, and the category name equals, and the post per page equal. So you can create very bespoke loops based on exactly what your requirement is. So another good reason to get Oxygen is you don't need to know everything. You can have a look, and then from the information you're given, you can get an idea of what you want to do. So you don't have to be an expert in WordPress to be able to learn and find out more about how things work and are put together. So that's just a brief overview into the Easy Post, but Oxygen have included another feature which allows you to create your own loops, and that is what's called a repeater. So once again, if I go into my helpers and I head along to repeater, I have this option here which gives me, once again, I have a query, I have a layout, I have pagination. I can then choose normal mode or single mode, and in this query, once again, you'll see the same options that we just looked at now. Then I can choose my layout. I can decide what the layout's going to be. So the nice thing about the repeater is that you'll see here it's a completely blank setup. I can come in here now and create my own layout by adding a set of divs. Inside that div, I can maybe create a title. And if I want to link that title, that heading, to some data, I can simply double click that item, head up to the top of my screen here, go to insert data, and then choose, maybe I want the post title, maybe I want an excerpt, maybe I want a date. Whatever I want to put into that text item now I can, and when that is rendered according to my loop, it will then of course have the data. So in this case, it's just the home page title, but if I was in a particular category, it would then bring through the title of that particular post. The other nice thing is whatever I insert into that data, in this case I chose title, I can select to make that a link, which means that when you click on it, it'll link through to that particular item in the website. So here I can create my own bespoke system for laying out posts. So I can either go with the Easy Post, which gives you a number of pre-made options, or I can go into my repeater and create my own layout entirely from scratch. And that's sometimes really nice when you're working with custom post types and custom fields, because you can pull those values then into your post loop, so that when people look in the grid view, they will see that information inside the grid and not just the standard WordPress option. So that's pretty much how that would work. So you have complete freedom to create whatever you want to create now on your archive pages. So if this was your recent post, you'll see that it has this information here, but there's nothing stopping you from adding background images, from adding background colors, or including other content elements before or after the post that you've entered. So you have complete freedom over the way that your template for your archive items, so that archive items would be things like categories, tags, or even your own custom taxonomies, custom categories, custom tags that you've created. All of that would then be templated in to display with this layout. But the nice thing now is that within my templating settings, if I head back here to the admin for this particular archive, you'll see that I can choose which archive or which taxonomies will use this particular category. So I can either say all categories, or here would be a list of tags, here would be a list of categories, or my own custom taxonomies. And then I can say, well, if it belongs to category A, use this template. If category B, that template. If it's this author, then use this template. So the nice thing is that I can create anything that I want to display the archives on my website. I don't have to stick to a choice of 1 or 2. I can create 100 if I want for 100 different categories. It's entirely up to me. So this is where I have complete control over which archive is going to use this template, and then I also have a template priority, so I can even create templates with higher or lower priorities, which then determines which template gets shown. So there are just layers upon layers of functionality inside Oxygen. So another good reason why Oxygen is the go-to template builder, a strong consideration if you're looking at creating a template for your website. So let's have a look then at some of those dynamic elements that we just had a look at. So I'm just going to deselect those items, and then we'll edit with Oxygen again. And you'll see here we can pull in any item from a WordPress post can be pulled into that archive. Or if I'm looking at an individual page, I also have some options that I can pull into my page. So while we're looking at archive, here you see the archive, but it doesn't stop me from, in my header or my footer, from bringing in the latest post. So if I wanted to, I could head over here and bring in a loop with the latest posts. So I can do that. So the different elements within Oxygen can be applied anywhere on the website. You're not restricted to only applying that element in a specific place. So here we looked at what was possible, and just to give an idea of what's possible when it comes to some of the other WordPress elements, if we go to a standard page, or let's go and have a look at a post template. So here we're going to head out. We can head back to the admin section. We'll head over to templates. And then what we'll have a look at is how to, when it comes to blog posts, how to create different blog posts. So, and you'll see that you can actually then link the dynamic content within WordPress to your page layout. So here we have Oxygen loaded, and I'm on a standard post page, and I open up my structure panel, and you'll see that here we have the different elements, and you'll see it's picking up the name of the post, Hello World, and if I click on that, you'll see that it brings in this funny text, and the reason for that is because I've taken that standard text element, double-clicked on it, and I've gone to Insert Data, and I've said display the title for this post right there, and that's exactly what's happened. The same applies to the date. So you'll see here that we have this reference number, and then we have this date or this reference, and that's just to ensure that the shortcodes that are used are legitimate shortcodes, and that it's not some injected malware on your website. So those are all generated automatically by Oxygen Builder. You don't have to worry. Then here again we have an item. So we have what's called a simple article, which is something standard from WordPress. So I can do a simple article, or I can create my own layout for my particular post. And I can also, in this case, we've also inserted a code block. So if I want to, I can also include my own code blocks with my own PHP or HTML code. In this case, it's empty, but I might have some custom code that I want to run. I can actually put that custom PHP code in here and it'll run on the page. I don't necessarily have to go and create a function. Can do it that way, but maybe I just want to insert something quickly here. Well, this is where I can do that. And then also here we have the comment section, which is also a standard WordPress element. So if we're going to have a look at what's available under WordPress, you'll see that under dynamic data, when it comes to a post, I can just click on dynamic data, and then by selecting these items, I can simply bring in, for example, that's how I could just bring in the title. I could also bring in categories, bring in the date, bring in the author. So you can see how easy it is for me to build up and create the content that I want. And then of course it's very easy to delete the item. And as I showed before, how you can move stuff around. So maybe I want to move that out of that section into the next section. And now you'll see that categories are displayed with the title. So very easy to move stuff around. Another good reason to use Oxygen then is the integration into the dynamic data inside WordPress. So very easy to do. We also have other options within WordPress, and you'll see here that this may or may not be relevant to a particular post, but we can bring in things like the different widgets. So the widgets are available here or in the widget menu in the standard WordPress way if you're assigning to a sidebar. But if I wanted to bring in a widget into a post layout, I can simply do it straight from this widget option. Then I can bring in my own custom shortcodes. We can also bring in menus. So menus wouldn't apply here. They would apply more to the header and the footer. So in the header here, if I wanted to add a menu, you'll see I've added the menu item element that you saw. And here I can then select the menu, and the menus would be then set up in WordPress in the normal WordPress menu. And I could simply, from the drop down, select the menu that I want. And if we go back here, for example, then to WordPress, you'll see that I have a Pro menu as well. And the Pro menu is another menu option, just offering a whole lot of different formatting options and the way that it works. And of course, you'll see that there is for a vertical menu, and that's for a minimalist menu. And then we also have these other menu items. So that's just the Pro menu, which just gives you a bit more in terms of formatting. But there you can see how I brought in that dynamic data, the menu, and quite easily inserted that into the header of my website. So very easy to do. And we can, for example, even put in a search bar. So if I wanted to put in a search bar into my header, I could very easily then head over to my WordPress options. I could then go to the search form, and I could bring in a search into my website, maybe move that to the row center. And there I have the search brought into the center of my website. And once again here, if I wanted to wrap that in a div, simply click on the menu, wrap with div, and I have it wrapped in the div. And now you'll see that based on that div information, I can then change the width of my div. And if I wanted to center that content, simply click on center, and it is now centered. So that's how easy it would be to bring in a search bar into my header, for example. And those same elements now, or similar elements, can be then used from the dynamic post options here. I can bring elements into the post. You saw how I brought other elements like the menu into the header. Here, for example, is my content, my comment form. So just to show you, I can add and then comment form, and you'll see that it's already styled based on the theme that I imported. So very easy to do. So yeah, another good reason is just that it's so easy to create your custom post layouts. For example, this header, for example, if I didn't want that background in there, I can simply remove the background. And if I wanted to put an image into the background, I could head over to background here, take out that image overlay, or if I want to assign an image, hit on data, select featured image, choose from the size. And now if there is a featured image with a post, it's going to be a background image. And if I wanted to create a gradient background, simply come in, add the colors. I don't know how many colors you'd want for your gradient, but you can come in here now and create whatever gradient you want for your posts. And what I can also do when I'm here looking at my gradient, so I head over to background, to my gradient, and I now have a radial or a linear option, and I can of course change the angle of my background. So there, very quickly I've changed the complete style of my individual post, and if I want to see that on the front end, well, I can either remove the sidebars here to get an idea of what it looks like, or simply right click on front end, opens in a new tab, and there are the new styles that I just applied. So it's really that easy to create custom looking styles for my post. And once again, I can assign that layout to, if the post is in a certain category, display with this template. If it's in another category, display it in a completely different layout. So I can style all my posts on my website in a completely different way. So that just gives you a brief idea of what's available when it comes to the archives. So this would be the archive, and when it comes to styling individual posts, there's literally no limit to what's possible when it comes to styling posts, archives, and layouts, whether they're custom post types or standard post types within WordPress. And we also had a look at the repeater field, which shows you that I can even create my own custom layouts. I don't have to stick with the standard suggestions that come from Oxygen. When it comes to the header and the footer of my website, I can create the header and footer that I would like for my website. Here we've added a search bar. If I head down to the bottom, all the content elements are available to me to put into my footer. So if I wanted to add, I could add my own repeater in here. I could add my own post loop in here if I wanted to. Any one of these items is available. I could add my own slider, for example. I can put a little slider here on the right hand side. I could add, say, some tab content. So maybe here I want to add some tab content. I can then, using the tab option, add my tab content and format my tabs. So I can add any content I want into the header and the footer of my website. There's no restriction. So that's another nice thing that you get out of Oxygen. Another good reason is you style the headers and the footers the way that you would want them. The next thing we're going to have a look at is the fact that we can achieve pixel perfect design, because I can style the items to either be, for example, in this case, maybe my design says adjust to the full width of the page. So if I look at that, this will then be the full width of my page. But maybe in my styling, I don't want it to be the full width. It must be the width of the site. I would head up to my header builder, and under advanced, under layout, under size and spacing, we'd go from full width maybe to page width. And now I have a very defined width for my header. I can come in and style the individual items and position them exactly where I want them to meet the design that I've created. So once again, I can take any element and change the formatting so that it is different from maybe what's standard for the rest of the site. Maybe I want to do something different because it's the header. So for example, whatever I want to do, I can come in here and style. Menus, buttons, logos. So here, for example, we brought in the social elements. All I do is put in the social link, and it automatically pulls up the icon. And here I can decide if I want circles, squares, if I want it blank, maybe not blank. And I can also say no, use the brand colors, or don't use the brand colors. And here, the space between icons, I can change that. I can change the size of the icon, make them bigger, make them smaller. So quite a lot of control here over those social icons, and implement it very quickly and very easily. So once again, a very flexible layout option. So now that we've had a look at the fact that we can create our custom headers and footers. We must also then have a look at the fact that these custom headers and footers can appear different when we're looking at them in mobile and when they're in desktop. So if I was to want to have a look at what my header and footer would look like on a mobile device, I can head down to the smallest viewport size, scroll through and see what it looks like. And you'll see that this has a completely different look because that menu that we had here at the top is not available at the top, and we now have our own custom menu bar here at the bottom. And if we have a look at that on the front end, let's just quickly have a look at that in the mobile view. You'll see here that we have a completely different look. We don't have that big menu at the top of the page. We have something a lot more compact. And when it comes to the menu, instead of the standard drop-down, we've created this very engaging menu with our own style. So let's just refresh that so that it runs as a mobile page. And now you'll see I can scroll up and down. I can have pictures, or I can have standard text links, and then we just have a button here to exit. So I can create custom layouts, custom styles, custom experiences. If I want to make a phone call, simply hit the button on my phone. I'll be able to make a call. Here I can make the call through my website. So you can create whatever menu you want here with whatever content in whatever modal that you want for your website. So another good reason is that you can create custom mobile experiences for your customers. Let's just have a look at some of the content elements that will give you an idea of what makes it such a good idea to use Oxygen Builder. So I think what we're going to have a look at here then would be the standard content that you might find on a product page. So we'll just refresh that to get our desktop view back. And I can head over to edit page. And what I'm going to do now is open up Oxygen Builder, and you'll see we have just a little warning here to say that Oxygen is open on another page, and we then have the option to override, and that's just to prevent you from overriding settings on another page with the settings from this page. So while we're waiting for that to load, then let's just quickly remove some of these items. Right, so let's go back there now. And you'll see this would be, say, our standard product page. And there we have our standard product page. And let's say I wanted to maybe put this content, looks really nice, but I'd like to see it in a slider. So what I would do then is head over to my structure panel so I can see the layout. I'd add a section. In this case, I would add a section. And in that section then, simply click on add, head over to helpers, look for slider. So there I've inserted the slider, and now I already have this content here. Okay, so I would then head over to my slider, and inside my slider you'll see I've got slide 1, 2, and 3. I can simply move that into that position. There we go, it's in the slider. So first slide is done. Then I have a look and I say, well, you know what, I wouldn't mind putting this content in the next slide. So simply click on that content, drag it into the slide. Now when I go to the next slide, you'll see that I have that content. It's just brought through. Okay, I only brought through the one. So maybe what I should do is just hit the undo button here. So that's what's really nice, is I can quickly do an undo. And then instead of taking one div, I'm going to take these columns into the slider. So head over, drop the columns in, and there we have the columns. So now we have that content layout, and the next slide we have a completely different content layout. And perhaps then in the third slide, this is already a slide, so I'm not going to put the slide in a slide. But you get the idea. I can then maybe decide I'm not going to have a third slide and simply disable. I can then head over to my sliders sections here, and I can choose my sliding. So it'll be a horizontal. Maybe we want to go with a fade. The Animation speed is fine. The arrow color, we can decide to go lighter. In this case, darker works better. And then we also have some dots on the page. And in this case, we might want to go with a darker color. So we make that a little bit darker. We can remove the padding around the slides just to make them a bit bigger in the space. We can say the dots overlay, so it then once again saves a little bit more space. And all slides stretch to the same height. So now no matter what content we put in, all our slides will be the same height, and we don't have the page moving up and down as you go from one slide to the next. And you'll see here that we have the fade effect. So let's just go back to our slider. Okay, and we can force the slide padding to, let's make it maybe just 10 pixels there. So there we have our slider, and it can really contain any element. If I wanted to include post information, I could even include a post loop in there to display, say, the latest 3 posts from a particular category. So that's how easy it is to make a slider. And of course, then when it comes to the mobile view, I can have a look at the mobile view and see if that works for me. And if not, what's nice now is I can actually create my posts for the mobile view. So maybe the slider when it comes to the desktop view is great, but I want to create a different slider when it comes to mobile view. I can then set this slider not to display on mobile, and I can create a separate slider to display when it is mobile. So that way I know that the user experience is going to be perfect for any user, whether they're on a tablet, on a PC, or on their phone. So another good reason to use Oxygen is the fact that the slider can contain any information that I want. And just to have a quick look here, if I wanted to include some custom PHP code here, maybe you've got some something to do with advanced custom fields or some other custom PHP that you need, very easily head over to add a basic content element and enter your code block. And now in this code block, you'll see I can have standard PHP. I can have whatever CSS that I want then to be applicable to that particular content element. And then I can even add my own custom JavaScript. So it's really that easy to add custom PHP. And of course, then you can assign to that code block, you can assign classes, and then you can style the inside of that code block also in the way that you would like to display those elements. Another great reason for using Oxygen to build your themes is the fact that I can create reusable content. So let's say I have this slider over here, and I think, wow, this is really cool. I want to use it in more than one place. I can simply select that content, image, and benefits, and I can decide I'm going to use it elsewhere. I simply click on my menu here, and I say make reusable, and it's now going to become a reusable content, and I'm going to call, so this is image and benefits, and I'm just going to use this like this so you can see how it works. And I select OK, and you'll see now that it's going to change that element from a standard element into a reusable part. So I can no longer edit that element inside the page, and that is to ensure that when I do edit this element, wherever this element appears on the website, it's going to be edited. But the nice thing about the way that it's created is if I want to create a reusable element, I would head over here to add, head over to reusable, and I can now import my reusable elements. Now it's not showing yet because I need to save the post. And then what I need to do is just refresh so that those reusable elements become available. And I'll show you now what's great about the reusable elements and how you can use them on a page. So we'll just wait for that to load. In the meantime, we'll go over here to this was our post archive, and I'm going to refresh that as well, just to show you how I can bring the reusable element even into my archive page. So let's head back to the product page, and you will remember that we just made this a reusable element. So when I click on it, whether in my structure or here, you'll see it's reusable, and I have to open and edit that in a separate place. But let's say I wanted to add the slider layout basically, but then I wanted to change the items. Now I know that this is what I want. So I would head over to add, I would say reusable. Now there's the element. When I click on it, I can bring it in as a single or editable option. So in this case, because I already have one version, I'm going to say editable. Now it's going to bring in that content. However, I can now edit it on my page. So when I update that reusable post content centrally, it's not going to change. It'll change globally, but not on this one that I've imported now, because I can now go in and manually decide to update and change this one to be unique to this particular page. So I can use the design elements but create different content. So a really great way then to use reusable items. And if we head back here, for example, to our archive, and I wanted to put that slider on my archive, once again, add, I could say reusable, and in this case, I could say single. So it's going to come in with the default settings, the global settings, move that to the top of the page, and there I have a slider inserted onto my archive page, hit save. And now when I look at that on the front end, you will see that we have the slider at the top of the page. That's also in Oxygen at the moment. So you can see how Oxygen is sometimes very deceiving because it looks like your website. Let's open that in the front end. And we must go to our archive, to posts. So here we have our posts, and if I refresh that page now, you'll see that the slider appears at the top of the page. So if I went into that item and edited it, so got too much open here now. So you'll see this is that reusable element. So if I want to edit just that element very quickly, I can click on the open and edit, and you'll see it's a slightly different view to the normal view. Click open anyway, just for this demo purpose. And now it's going to open Oxygen, but just with that element. No headers, no footers, just that element so that I can go in and make some edits. So at the moment, we have the editor here. So here we have it live on our website. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just edit that content element. So here it's loaded. And let's say I came in here and I'm just going to do something bold, like maybe give it a background color. So I'll just give it, and I save. Now when I head back to my content and I refresh, you'll see that that background color has been applied. So wherever this appears on the website now, it will have that color. And if I go back to my product page, and what I'm going to do is save that. And then what I'm going to do is just open that in the front end. And you'll see now that that was only applied to the global setting, but the element I imported to edit, it hasn't been applied to that one. So that just gives an idea of how flexible Oxygen is to save you time by not having to recreate elements if you're going to reuse them again. Right, so that's another good reason why Oxygen is a great tool to use. Then what we're going to have a look at is going to be the conditional display of content. So let's just have a look here on our product page, and maybe we've got something here which is only going to be available over Christmas or some other sale. It's quite then easy for me to come in and let's choose this element, for example. It's quite easy for me then, or the condition here would be set on the reusable part, and here I can set the condition because it's an element on this page. So there's another good reason to use Oxygen, is that you can set the conditions to apply to global elements or to individual sections or even to individual text on a page. So if I want to, I can apply to the whole section, but the conditions apply pretty much the same all the way around. And if I have a look at the conditions available, this is the default list. You can, of course, write your own conditions as well. So anything from archive to elements within author, other, which is date, time, day of the week, day of the month. So I could say, only display this content on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I could have it check the cookies in the cookie list, and if I've set a cookie and the cookie appears, it will then show the content, or it will choose not to show the content because the cookie is in the list. So there's a whole lot of different things here that you can do. You can even integrate with dynamic data. Then you have post information, post ID, post parent ID, post title. So you could only show this content if the post title is X. If the ID of the post is 123, it'll only display on that post. Or if the ID isn't 123, it'll display comment counts equal 10, then display this piece of content, if it's a particular post type or a post category. So a whole lot of things that apply. And then, of course, if you have different user levels on your website, maybe you have a subscription site, and when people sign up, they're assigned a user role. Well, here you can simply say that if the user role is equal to X, Y, and Z, show or hide the content, or maybe the user ID can't be a certain number, maybe a particular username. So if you have something maybe that you only want to show to a particular user, here's a way that you can set that condition to do that. So what's also really nice is that I can combine conditions. So let's say I had, if the date, let's have a look here, and if I said the date was equal to or is after, and then I said, oh, hang on a second, and they must have a user role that is equal to maybe administrator, add. I could add another condition, and so I go. And then what I'm able to do here is click on the conditions again, and I can say and, which means that all the conditions must be met, or I can set it to or, which means if any one of those conditions are met, then display the information. And then in the editing of my website, I can set to show or hide based on the condition, and that means that I will see the information as it would be available on the front end of the website. So I can say always show, so I can see everything, or if I can just see if my condition is working, maybe by doing that as a test, or I can say always hide. But these only affect what you see in the administration area, not what you see on the front end of the website. So we're just going to remove those conditions, but it's really that simple to use a condition. And of course, as I said, you can create your own conditions to work for maybe parameters that you have on your own website. Another great reason to use Oxygen is that you can create, let's say you've created a site, like here we imported the Oxygen Atomic website, which was this theme, and inside this theme we had all these content elements. Under services, it brought in these pages as you see them. So all these elements are brought in across. And let's say I've created a website and now I want to maybe create a second website, but I want to use some of these elements on a second website. What's really great about that is that if we head over to the Oxygen settings and I head over to library, I can actually set this website to be a design set, which means that I can link it to another website and feed those designs through to that website. So what does that mean? So when I'm here in my Oxygen builder and I'm looking at my page and I want to add an item, I can go to my library, and inside my library you'll see that I have design sets. These are the design sets from all the standard websites within Oxygen. So there we can see the atomic design set. And if I look at sections and elements, and you'll see that you have all these sections and elements that are available to me. So if I wanted to add a call to action to this page, I can simply head over here and add one of these pre-made items, click on it, it's brought into the page. I can then go in and I can now style that element. Maybe I want to add some content and I want to add an element with icons. Simply click on it and it's brought into my page. I can now come in and edit, change whatever I want to change for my own purposes. So there you go. You can see very easy, very quickly, I can update and change. So let's say I've created my own elements and I want to share them with another website. So in a similar way now, I can say, make this WordPress installer design set. And I update. And when I do that, you'll see I'm given this unique key. So if I was here to enable third-party design sets and I say update, you'll see now that I'm able to add a design set. So I would enter a site key. So that site key is very similar to the one that we set when we said make this WordPress installer design set. I would simply copy this from here, paste it into the add design set on another website, and then all the design sets that I've enabled in this website to be shared will then be shared onto that website. So I can create a central hub of all my designs that I want to use for a specific project. If it's going to be rolled out over multiple websites, I can centralize all that design on one main site, which doesn't have to be connected to that domain. It could be completely different. It could be completely independent to any one of the websites that are being used. And I can then simply, by copying this key and inserting it on those individual sites, bring the designs from this website into those websites. So that allows for you to scale very quickly. So instead of me having to create the same design and layouts on those 5 websites, I can literally create it in one place and share with those 5. Similarly, if you design a lot of websites and you've created some design sets that really work, this would be a great way then to be able to make them available on those sites to speed up your development. So that does help with your scalability. So just to see how that would work, if I wanted to create a design set, what I'm going to do here is if I head back to the admin now, you'll see that it's added this section onto the template page. So include this template in the default setup, include the sections in this template in the library, include this entire template in the library, and that would be the library to share. And then here I could set a featured image, or I could generate a screenshot. So that would then create the screenshot, or I could upload a screenshot, and that's the screenshot you saw when we said add, and I went to here, and these are the screenshots that you'll in fact be generating. So you can do it for an entire page, which turns the whole page into design set, or you can do it for individual items as it's been applied here. So that's what's really nice about creating content that you can share between the websites that you've created. So it's almost like having your own mini cloud that you can access with all your designs and then to deploy on all your own websites. So a very good reason to use Oxygen, because I don't need to deploy some kind of cloud service or pay for some kind of cloud service to do that. So that's just looking at some of the basic concepts within Oxygen. We've looked at the headers, we've looked at the footers, we've looked at content, we've looked at how easy it is to put any content into a slider, how you can style content different for mobile to what it is on the desktop view. So, I mean, a classic example would maybe be something like this, where we've added these elements. And I can literally say, well, in the desktop view, the background of this element is going to be this color, And when we go down to the mobile view, in the smallest viewport here, I'm going to change that color, and I'm going to make that color this blue. For example, simply save that. We'll head over to that page on the front end. So in the standard view, when I scroll down, you'll see that it has that nice blue. When I have a look at that in the mobile view now, let's just refresh, and I scroll down, you'll see now that it has that other blue. So that's how easy it is to assign a color. Similarly, if I'm not happy with the spacing here, I would come in here and I would say, you know what, here, under size and spacing, I don't want any padding to the side, and maybe I want to go one step further, and I say, you know what, I actually want that to touch the sides, so I remove any additional padding. So now it looks like that. When I head over here and I refresh, you'll clearly see that that particular element is wider than the other two. But when I head over to my desktop view, you'll see that the items display as they should for desktop. So that's how easy it is to change the content so that it's completely different for your mobile view experience to what it is on the desktop view. So you have a very tight control over those particular elements, and here with the different breakpoints, the highlighted color shows you that there's been a change, but I could do one for tablets, for example, which would be different to the breakpoint for mobile, for the smallest mobile phone breakpoint. So I can actually create really curated experiences for different screen sizes. And another one or two things that are worth having a look at is that when you head over to your Oxygen settings, we also have the Bloat Eliminator. So these are just some standard things that you can disable so that your site is a little bit leaner. We then also have our own CSS Cache. So if I enable the CSS caching, so I've built my website, I'm ready to make it live, I can deploy my own CSS caching, and because that's inside Oxygen and it's part of Oxygen, it means that it's going to be far more accurate than using a third party, and also I can regenerate that cache whenever I want to. So if I've made some design changes, simply head over here, regenerate, and my cache is up to date. That's just standard license. That's for the Typekit integration if you have an API. What I can also do here is I can add my own icon sets. So inside Oxygen, if we have a look under the items that we can add, for example, here's an icon, and it comes standard with Font Awesome and line icons, linear icons. If I wanted to create my own icon set, I can do that. There is a way of doing that, and I can actually upload my own icon set into Oxygen, and the icons are loaded as SVG graphics, and using a service called iComune to create the set, and then there's a special way to upload those icons into my installation of Oxygen, so I can create custom icon sets for my clients and then bring them into my website. So another great feature which saves a lot of time and looks very professional. Then under security, this has to look at the signatures of the shortcodes that Oxygen generates. So this isn't really used on a regular basis, but if you do pick up an issue, it might be worth just making sure that those signatures are correct and that you don't have anything changed in there that shouldn't be changed. So not used on a regular basis. The post type manager looks at the meta box on the different pages. So there are some pages where you don't want the Oxygen meta box to appear, and you can simply disable it on those pages. Also great just to make it easier or cleaner to work inside the WordPress pages. Here you can set the role managers. So the editor has full access, the author full access, no access, In future editions of Oxygen, you'll have more control over who can do what with which elements when it comes to the page. And then on the general page, here you have the settings for the undo, the preview drop-down limit. Then here you have the exclude non-public post types from preview. You can enable a selector detector. What the selector detector does is, for example, if you're using contact form 7 and you have some selectors in there for your different elements like your label or for the fields, then Oxygen can identify those and just make it a little bit easier for you to style that element from within Oxygen. You have a Maps API key for any mapping that you want to do. And here you have an option to show all advanced custom fields in the dynamic data dialog, which is quite superb when it comes to integrating advanced custom fields, because then the way that would work is if I'm looking at my page here and I wanted to, let's say, insert a custom field. So here at the top, when I go insert data, you'll see that I have the title, the content, the excerpt, the date, the standard stuff. But with advanced custom fields, there would be another button here with advanced custom fields. I could click on that, and then my fields within advanced custom fields are then available. I could select, as I did here with title, insert, and that would bring the data through whatever the data is. For example, that's the data that's available here as the title for this page, but it could be any advanced custom field value. And if we look at something more advanced like repeaters, with advanced custom fields, I can go into my add section here, head back to helpers, head back here to my repeater, and in my repeater, I'd now have an option here for advanced custom fields, and I can actually then bring through the values from that advanced custom field repeater straight into my post, my page. So saving a lot of time when it comes to integrating custom fields. So one last thing to have a look at then before we stop looking at the reasons to buy Oxygen is just to have a brief look at just what comes standard with Oxygen in terms of what you can add to your page. So if we have a look at the content elements here under basic, you have your section, div, and columns. Then you have your headings, your text, your rich text, text links, link wrappers, buttons, images, videos, icons, custom code. If we look at helpers, which are there to help you perform certain tasks, just to speed up the development, we've got the header builder, which you saw was used in the header of the website where we create our menu. We have the social icons, which was these items over here, testimonials, icon boxes, a pricing box, a progress bar. So, you know, if you were looking at adding a pricing box, just to show you how easy that is, I mean, I would add a pricing box, and there it is there. Maybe that's not such a good place to put it. Let's put it on some white background. So we head over to basics, we say add a new section, and inside that section, we'll head over to helpers and we say add a pricing box. So there's my pricing box. You'll see it's something you've seen before. If I wanted to duplicate that, I could duplicate it. And now what I can do is I can head back to my section and I can just stack them next to each other, and then using the options available, I can come in here now and update my pricing box the way that I would like it to be and format it with different colors. If I wanted to add a graphic, I could come in and include an image. Don't include an image. Have a look at that be the background for the image, but there isn't. So if I look here, for example, under basic hosting, I can come in under the title, and you know, I can create whatever changes I want to make my pricing box a little bit more interesting, changing the colors. So there's a little bit to learn, but once you understand that, you can come in here and create whatever you want in your pricing box. So that's just one of the items. Then I can add a gallery of images. The gallery is actually quite a powerful tool. So we'll just add another section here. And if I was to add the gallery, what's really nice now is I can go to my media library, or it could be advanced custom fields, or it could be something from Woocommerce, browse. If I select my images, right, I say insert gallery. So there are my 4 images. If I head over to my layout, I can of course change that to a masonry layout. So it will now respect the images, the different sizes, so it'll actually stack them. In this case, we don't have enough to demonstrate that. Or if I go to flex, then they all have the same aspect ratio. I can put there the number of images per row. When it comes to the caption, I can show captions no. Maybe it's something you don't want to show if you don't have really good captions. And then, of course, when I click on that item, it's going to open in a light box. And I'll be able to see an enlarged version of that particular product. So if we have a look here, there you go. So it's really that easy to set up your own gallery. Right, so you got the gallery repeater, the slider we had a look at. You can set up tabs, a super box, toggles with the accordion style, opening and closing, the modal. So here's an example of the modal being used in a mobile menu. So in this case, on our website, we've set the trigger to be, okay, if I click on this item, show the modal, scroll up and down, close. So that's an example of the modal being used here, but the modal doesn't have to only be used on mobile, of course. It can be used in a whole, in any pretty much way that you want, and you can include any content inside that modal that's available within Oxygen. You're not limited to anything. So you have complete control. And if we just have a quick look at the, let's just have a quick look at the elements available. So if we have a look at going over to the helper, and we're going to go and have a look at the modal. So here we have our modal. You'll see that when I have my modal, I can, is it after number of clicks, after number of page views. So only show this if somebody's been to this page like 5 times. As the user scrolls, after a specified time, after, if they haven't been active, on exit intent, when they scroll to an element, then bring it up, or as I demonstrated earlier, user clicks on an element. So you've got all of that available to you. And then when it comes to the content of your modal, very easy to do. Earlier on, maybe you want to move your price box into your modal, for example, as simple as dragging it over. Let's just open our modal, and there you see the price boxes in the modal. So very easy to bring an element across, and then of course you have all the styling options inside your modal to make it look good. So you can decide how to stack the elements normally, or you can do it next to each other, underneath each other. Content styles, text color, background color. So maybe let's make the background color white. And then of course you have the closing side, and here you can say, well, close the modal automatically, which is set to no. Close on escape key, not a bad idea to leave that on yes. Close on background click, which means you click around the side of the modal. And you can also, if you want to include a button, simply click on include a close button, and it's inserted for you. And then of course you can move that button to the top or the bottom, or use some other styling to position it wherever you want. So very easy to do. And what I can also do is, if we look at the modal styles and we look at the width, we can change that to percentage, for example, and we could say make that 90% width. And the content inside, we look at the modal. Maybe we're going to start it like that, so the two elements are next to each other. So there's really no limit to what you can do when it comes to the styling of the modal. It's really up to you. And when the modal opens, you can choose top left-hand column or top right-hand corner, the top, the middle, the right, the left corner at the bottom. So when the user scrolls, it's not that the modal takes over the entire screen. You could also set it to very subtly just pop up in the bottom right-hand corner, left-hand corner, the center, top right, wherever you want to grab the user's attention. So once again, some really nice options available to you when it comes to the modal and to content styles. So I hope that just gives you a brief idea of what's available, and that the modal is quite a useful tool. And then we also have Google Maps. You can bring in Google Maps, your SoundCloud. The things you can bring in under WordPress, of course, is the menus, specific shortcodes, your comments list, a comment form, a login form if you want to have a login form for users to access certain areas. So you could say only show this if they're not logged in, then show them a login form so they can then, once logged in, you can say only show this content to somebody who's logged in. So you can do that on a page as well. The search form we included in the header. You have the standard dynamic data for your post. Then you have access to all the widgets that you would find in the backend in the widget section of WordPress are available here. And then with Oxygen, you can create custom sidebars, and there's a way of doing that. And then you can bring in your own custom sidebars to be displayed where you want them. And you can pretty much create as many sidebars as you want to create whatever information you want, and then insert them anywhere in your page templates. Then we have a look at the library, and under the library you saw that we have the design sets, and these would be the standard design sets, but there's also nothing stopping you from creating your own. Now in this case we're using the Atomic website that we downloaded when we installed the site, but if I wanted to include a design set, say from Freelance, there's nothing stopping me from selecting anything from that design set. So I'm not limited to only one site. I can choose from anything inside that, inside any one of these design sets. Simply click on it, and that will bring that information through into the website. So here I have included that in my modal, which is probably not the best place to put it. So if I want to move it very easily, I can move it out of the modal. And there, for example, we have it displayed now on its own. So there you go. So if I save that and I refresh my page, you'll see now that there we have the road to success. So it was that easy to bring in that content element from a different design set and use it. And of course we have the modal enabled, so that's why it popped up. So yeah, so that just gives you an idea of what's available. Right, so yeah, well, I hope that gave you some insight into what's available in Oxygen, just how popular it is, and gave you a whole lot of good reasons to buy Oxygen. Over and above what I've shown you, there's an active group of people that support the product. There are a lot of tutorial videos from Oxygen and from other enthusiasts who've created videos. There are a number of additional plugins that you can get to enhance Oxygen further. But rest assured, Oxygen is developed by a very professional team, and they're continually updating the plugin and adding new features to make sure that the product improves and adapts just as WordPress changes, and to make sure that the integration with WordPress is seamless, and also to make sure that the proper standards are maintained so that other plugins can also work very nicely within Oxygen. So I hope that gave you enough reasons to seriously consider buying Oxygen. It's a lifetime deal. You buy it once, you can use it on as many sites as you want to. And here we've only looked at Oxygen. There are another 2 modules available. The one is for creating Gutenberg blocks. So you can create your own blocks that will then appear in the Gutenberg list of blocks, which is then part of the standard WordPress blocks when you're editing a post or a page, which then does allow you to create your own custom layouts. And then there's also the Woocommerce. So you can create your own custom layouts for your product sections. You can style your product pages the way that you want them to be, and then you can also create different product styles and templates, maybe for different categories inside your products, or maybe you just want to style a particular product in a certain way because you're having a promotion. So those are another 2 items that are available. So yeah, head over to oxygenbuilder.com. A lot of good reasons to get Oxygen, and just remember that once you've bought Oxygen, you'll never buy another template again, and you'll always be able to build the site that you want the way that it's meant to be. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the video.